Not answering a big Star Trek question is one of the Section 31 movie's biggest failures. One of the biggest failures of Star Trek. Section 31 is that the streaming Star Trek movie didn't actually answer its biggest questions. Section 31 agent and Terran Emperor Philippa Georgiou Michelle Yeoh returns in Star Trek. Section 31, written by Craig Sweeney and directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi. Georgiou's version of Section 31 in Star Trek Discovery is a 23rd century open secret with its recognizable black badges. Skilled Starfleet misfits like Georgiou and Klingon defector Ash Tyler Shazad Latif are shuffled off to Section 31, where their gray morality makes them perfect for off-the-books, unethical missions. That's a big change from how Section 31 is introduced in Star Trek Deep Space Nine as a shadowy, secret arm of Starfleet that no one knows about. After Dr. Julian Bashir Alexander Siddig is quietly recruited as a Section 31 agent, Captain Benjamin Sisko Avery Brooks discovers that Starfleet Command maintains no official position on the existence of Section 31. Being one of Starfleet's deepest, darkest secrets means there's no one to hold the 24th century version of Section 31 accountable. Without oversight, Section 31 has free rein to do the dirty work that supposedly maintains Star Trek's utopia. One of Star Trek Section 31's biggest failures is not answering its biggest question. One of the biggest failures in Star Trek Section 31 is that it never answers the question of how Section 31 went from an open secret in Discovery to an organization that doesn't officially exist in DS9. In Star Trek Section 31, Starfleet's Lieutenant Rachel Garrett Casey role is on the team, and Georgiou confirms Section 31 still accepts Starfleet's more problematic castoffs. Star Trek Section 31's Lost Era is still operating on Discovery-era rules because it knows about and possibly condones Section 31. The breakdown in the protocol that's destined to drive Section 31 underground has never been explained. Instead, Star Trek Section 31 is a disjointed romp that wastes the opportunity to show what made Section 31 fake its own death in Star Trek's Lost Era, and paradoxically fails to show any actual spycraft. It doesn't answer if 24th century mission went too far or if there was a deep conflict between Starfleet and Section 31 as an independent organization. It's also curious to know where Section 31's DS9 era autonomy even came from. Star Trek Section 31 never explains the inner workings of Section 31 as an espionage division, so how it became Starfleet's darkest secret is anyone's guess. It's possible Star Trek Section 31 wanted to wait until its sequel to answer questions about how Section 31 works or why it went underground, but that's another big mistake. Instead of being a surprise smash, or even a divisive entry in Star Trek canon like its parent show Star Trek, Discovery fans and critics alike have deemed Star Trek Section 31 a failure. Even if Paramount Plus makes more Star Trek streaming movies, a Section 31 sequel probably isn't happening. Without a sequel on the horizon, Star Trek Section 31 leaves a lot of unanswered questions on the table. Cutting moral philosophy or canon deep dives from Section 31's original plan, if there were any, is like trimming away all the Star Trek. The long-anticipated Star Trek Section 31 movie promised to boldly go where no installment had gone before, deep into the morally gray corridors of Starfleet's most secretive Black Ops organization. Helmed by Michelle Yeoh reprising her fan-favorite role as Emperor Philippa Georgiou, the project had the intrigue, pedigree, and potential to peel back the layers of espionage and ethical ambiguity that Section 31 has embodied since its first appearance in Deep Space Nine. But despite its ambition and a few compelling sequences, the movie stumbles in one critical area. It dodges answering a central question that has haunted Star Trek fans for decades. Should Section 31 even exist within the Federation? Since its inception, Section 31 has represented a stark contrast to the utopian ideals Gene Roddenberry envisioned for the 23rd and 24th centuries. An autonomous, unaccountable arm of Starfleet intelligence that undertakes covert missions, employs questionable tactics, and often disregards the prime directive, Section 31 is the necessary evil, or so its agents claim. The question of whether a supposedly enlightened society needs an organization willing to get its hands dirty to protect its ideals has sparked countless debates among fans and in-universe characters alike. The Section 31 movie flirts with this dilemma, but ultimately retreats into safer territory. Throughout its 2-hour runtime, it provides action-packed heists, double crosses, and Yo's trademark charismatic menace, but never commits to a substantive exploration of whether Section 31 is justified in the grand scheme of Federation ethics. The film presents both justifications and condemnations in passing dialogue, but always cuts away before engaging in any meaningful interrogation. This omission is more glaring when considering the legacy of the franchise itself. Star Trek has always been at its best when it confronts philosophical and moral quandaries head-on. Whether it was Captain Kirk debating godlike beings, Captain Picard confronting the limits of duty and personal conscience, or Commander Sisko wrestling with moral compromises during the Dominion War, the franchise has never shied away from asking uncomfortable questions and attempting to answer them, no matter how ambiguous the result. By contrast, the Section 31 movie sidesteps the chance to grapple with whether an organization that operates outside the oversight of the Federation Council and Starfleet Command can exist without eroding the very ideals it purports to defend. The closest the film comes to addressing this is a fleeting scene where Georgiou, reflecting on her Terran past, remarks that every paradise has shadows. Yet the movie fails to follow up on that thesis. It neither condemns nor fully endorses Section 31, leaving audiences with a vague shrug where a firm statement could have enriched the narrative. This hedging is particularly disappointing because the timing was perfect for a definitive statement. In the post-Picard era, with Starfleet having weathered multiple crises, from the synth ban to Romulan refugee debates, the Federation's integrity has been shown as resilient but fragile. A bold take on Section 31's role could have contextualized the organization within this modern Star Trek landscape, offering insight into how far the Federation is willing to go to maintain security and stability. Furthermore, the absence of a clear answer feels like a disservice to Yo's Georgiou. Her character, a mirror universe despot trying to find redemption or at least reinvention in the Prime Universe, is the perfect vehicle to question the ethics of necessary evils. Instead of allowing her arc to pivot around a decisive stance on Section 31, the film dilutes her narrative with generic spy thriller beats. Georgiou deserved a story that asked her, and the audience, whether she had merely traded one empire's ruthlessness for another's quieter, sanctioned brutality. One can argue that ambiguity is intentional. After all, espionage narratives thrive on murkiness and moral gray areas. But Star Trek is not just any espionage franchise. Its enduring power lies in its willingness to imagine better futures, not merely cynical compromises. By refusing to answer whether Section 31 has a place in that future, the film leaves a vacuum where a resonant, challenging discourse could have been. Worse yet, it risks normalizing the idea that the ends justify the means can be quietly accepted within the Federation, without the rigorous examination Roddenberry's universe demands. Ultimately, Star Trek Section 31 is entertaining in bursts, visually stylish, and buoyed by Michelle Yeoh's commanding performance. Yet, its biggest failure is one of omission rather than execution. By not definitively addressing whether Section 31 should exist, the film undercuts its own,